You see, there's a moment in every woman's life when she turns to look at a chapter she thought she had closed, and in that moment she sees that you've moved on. Now, people like to pretend that it doesn't affect them. Pretend they've grown past it, but deep down, behind the masks, beneath the ego, it stings, not because she necessarily wants you back, but because it forces her to confront something no one likes to admit. She may act unbothered, pretend she's unfazed, maybe even flaunt her independence louder than ever. You'll see her smiling in photos, laughing a little too hard in reels, or posting cryptic quotes about healing and self-love. But deep within, beneath the surface of all that curated confidence, there's a shift, an undeniable ripple of surprise that she didn't see coming. Because no matter how much she convinced herself that you'd never truly walk away, that you'd always remain in the shadows of her life, waiting for the chance to return, waiting for her validation, waiting for a hint of attention, the truth hits her like cold air when she finally sees it for what it is. You moved on, not the kind of moving on that's filled with bitterness or rebound energy. No, this is a deeper, quieter kind of moving on, the kind that radiates calmness, stability, and self-possession. The kind that says, I found peace, and it didn't need to include you. And that's what shocks her most, because in her mind, she might have thought she had more time, more power, more influence. She believed you were still emotionally orbiting her, even if from a distance. But now, seeing you emotionally detached, no longer seeking her, no longer needing her permission to thrive, that's where the surprise lives. It's not just that you've moved on. It's that you've moved forward with such clarity and focus. She can't help but feel the distance, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And even if she's the one who ended things, even if she's the one who thought she had the upper hand, there's still that sharp realization that while she was looking sideways, thinking you were stuck, you were actually building, healing, growing, becoming someone stronger, someone whole. And it wasn't just about meeting someone new or getting into another relationship. It's about how you've evolved, the way you speak differently now, carry yourself with more dignity, think deeper, act smarter. That's what causes the stir in her spirit. That's what rewrites the narrative she told herself, because she never thought you'd rise, at least not without her influence, not without her being the reason. That surprise doesn't come with loud words or outbursts. It comes in silence, in the way she pauses on your photo a second too long, in the way she replays old conversations in her mind, wondering where the switch really flipped. And maybe, just maybe, she starts to question if she ever truly knew the depth of your potential. Maybe she realizes she mistook your love for weakness, your patience for passivity, your loyalty for lack of options. And now she's learning, too late, that the version of you who once gave her so much of your energy has become someone who gives that energy to yourself, to your growth, to your future. She's surprised not just because you moved on, but because you did it without making noise, without trying to prove anything, without needing closure from her or applause from others. You just rose, quietly, decisively, and that kind of transformation, that kind of self-respect, that shakes something in her that no words can mask, and she starts to realize she was looking back while you were already walking toward the light on the surface. She might carry herself like nothing touches her, like she's perfectly fine watching you live a life that no longer includes her. She might smile when someone mentions your name, say things like, I'm happy for him, or he deserves it. But beneath that polished exterior, there's a storm of mixed emotions she can't always explain. Pride and regret, two feelings that battle silently within her, creating a tension that lingers long after the smiles fade and the conversations end. A part of her wants to hold on to her pride, to believe that she made the right choice, that letting go of you was a decision rooted in strength, not impulse, not ego. She wants to stand by that choice, to defend it to herself and to the people around her who may have questioned it. Because, Walking away was supposed to be her power move, her moment of clarity, her way of reclaiming herself. But now, seeing you at peace, grounded, and not just surviving but actually thriving, there's a discomfort that creeps in slowly, a whisper of doubt that won't leave her alone. It's not that she suddenly wants to be with you again. It's not that she wants to rewind the clock and start over, but there's a weight she feels when she realizes you didn't fall apart without her, that maybe, just maybe, you became better in her absence. And that's the part she didn't expect, because deep down, she thought she would always matter more than your progress, that her memory would be something you couldn't outgrow. And now she watches from a distance, seeing you evolve into someone confident, stable, even joyful, and she feels conflicted. Proud of the person you've become, yet quietly haunted by the thought that she never really saw that version of you when she had the chance. Maybe she overlooked it. Maybe she was too distracted by your imperfections, too focused on her own fears, too wrapped up in what she thought love should look like. And now, as you bloom into yourself, unapologetically and without hesitation, she begins to wonder whether she misjudged you, underestimated you, or even worse, failed to see the depth of your loyalty, your vision, your heart. Regret begins to whisper questions that pride tries to silence. Questions like, was I too quick to give up? Or did I let go of something good because I wasn't ready to grow? And it's in these quiet internal moments where the real conflict lies. Because she can't go back and rewrite it. She can't erase the way she made you feel or the way she let you go. All she can do is watch as you walk a path that no longer includes her, and as much as she wants to be happy for you, and a part of her truly is, there's another part, deep and unspoken, that aches at the idea that you moved forward while she stayed still. She's not sure if the ache is about losing you, or losing who she was when she was with you, because when someone sees you become your best self after they've left, it forces them to question what role they really played in your life. Were they a lesson, a turning point, a temporary storm that led to your sunshine? And while pride tells her she made the right choice, regret shows her the aftermath, your glow, your confidence, your peace. And even though she may never say it out loud, there's a part of her that will always wonder if she could have been part of the growth, if she had just stayed, just believed, just looked at you a little deeper before deciding to walk away. She might never admit it, but curiosity has a way of creeping in, quietly and consistently, especially when someone she once shared moments with starts to look like a stranger she no longer recognizes. She'll pretend not to notice, act as if your presence online or the whispers of your progress in passing conversations mean nothing. But there will be moments when her fingers hover just a second longer over your name. Her eyes linger just a little too long on a photo you posted. Her thoughts drift a little too far into memories she thought were buried. It might be late at night, when the world is quiet and distractions fade, that she types your name into the search bar, not out of longing, but out of something deeper, curiosity wrapped in disbelief. Because she remembers who you were. She remembers the moments when you were still figuring yourself out, still unsure, still attached, and now, seeing you walk with confidence, laugh with ease, glow in a way that looks so free, she wants to know how you got there. She won't ask, of course, won't message or reach out, because that would mean revealing too much, giving away the control she thinks she still has, so instead she watches silently, maybe from a second account, maybe through mutual friends' stories, maybe through carefully controlled access points that allow her to observe without being seen. And in that curiosity, she begins to construct new images of you in her mind, images that no longer fit the version she used to know, and that shift is unsettling. She wonders who you're with, not out of jealousy, but out of the desire to understand how someone else now holds the space she once did. She wonders what it is about her that made her belong to your past, and what it is about the present that excludes her completely. It's not even about wanting you back. It's about making sense of how someone she once influenced has now become unreachable, not because of distance, but because of growth, transformation, evolution that she was not a part of. And she tells herself she's just checking in, just curious, just seeing what's new. But every scroll, every click, every time she lands on a smile that doesn't belong to her, there's a little more unraveling, a little more realization that the connection you once had is no longer dormant. It disappeared. She tries to decipher your captions, analyze your tone, compare the way you look now to the way you looked when you were with her, hoping to find something familiar, something that says a part of you still remembers, still feels, still wonders like she does. But what she finds instead is detachment, clarity, peace. Not the kind of peace that screams to the world, but the quiet kind that shows in your body language, in your eyes, in the way you speak about life without bitterness. And as much as she may hate to admit it, that's what draws her curiosity the most. How did you heal so completely? How did you let go without needing to be reminded of what was lost? How did you transform without needing her to witness it or validate it? She doesn't know how to ask those questions, and even if she did, she wouldn't, because curiosity is her silent confession, the only way she allows herself to still feel connected while pretending she's detached. It's in those quiet moments of digital wandering that she feels both close and distant, both observer and outsider, both part of the story and completely erased from its next chapter. There's something deeply unsettling about realizing the control you once had over someone no longer exists, especially when it's someone who once made you feel like the center of their universe, someone who would have done anything just to get a moment of your attention, someone who used to wait for your texts, your moods, your timing. And now that same person is moving with purpose, no longer waiting, no longer asking, no longer needing your approval to feel whole. That shift, that sudden loss of influence, hits in ways that are difficult to explain because it's not about wanting them back. It's about the loss of control, the disappearance of a dynamic that once made you feel powerful. When she sees you no longer react, no longer chase, no longer orbit around her emotional availability, it shakes something in her, something she never thought would be touched. Because for a long time, even if the relationship was over, there was still an unspoken confidence that if she called, you'd answer, that if she hinted, you'd respond, that if she needed reassurance, you'd offer it without hesitation. But now the silence is louder, the distance is real. You're not just gone, you're present somewhere else, emotionally invested in your own life, in your own peace, in someone or something that has nothing to do with her. And that's where the powerlessness sets in, not the dramatic, emotional kind, but the quiet, hollow kind that creeps in when she realizes she can no longer trigger a reaction, no longer access the emotions she once knew how to stir. You took back your energy, your time, your focus, and redirected it inward and to her. That feels like rejection even if you never said a word. It's the rejection of her influence, the refusal to be controlled by her silence or drawn in by her subtleties. She might test the waters sometimes, send subtle signals, indirectly remind you of her presence just to see if there's any reaction left, any part of you that still holds space for her. And when there's none, when her efforts are met with indifference or maturity or calm, that's when the truth becomes undeniable. You've taken back control, and not out of spite, but out of growth. You've outgrown the need to be validated by someone who made you question your worth. You've learned that peace is better than attention, that self-respect is stronger than desire, and that silence is more powerful than begging for clarity. She never expected that, never prepared for the day when she'd no longer be able to move you with a glance, a message, a memory. And now that day is here, and you're not looking back, not waiting for closure, not seeking explanations. You've chosen your own healing over the familiar chaos, and while she might have once held the upper hand, she now sees that real power isn't in holding someone's emotions hostage. It's in letting go with grace and never looking back. That power shift is irreversible, and even though she might smile, act unbothered, or pretend she's glad you're doing well, there's a part of her that feels the absence of your attention like a shadow she can't shake, a presence that became stronger when it stopped needing her permission to shine. She's left watching someone she once had complete emotional access to become someone she no longer understands, no longer controls, no longer owns, and in that realization, she feels the weight of what she once took for granted. That she won't say it out loud, not to her friends, not to her reflection, and certainly not to you, but somewhere deep within her chest is the quiet hum of what could have been, of decisions made too quickly, of words left unspoken, of moments she let slip by thinking they didn't matter as much as they did. She may appear to be moving on with her life, going about her routine, laughing at the right moments, posting the right stories, but when she sees that you've truly moved on, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, there's a stillness that falls over her. It's not envy, it's not rage, it's something far more difficult to carry. It's the slow, burning awareness that the choices she made cannot be undone, and that the version of you she left behind no longer exists. You are not the same person who once waited patiently, who once asked for her time, who once forgave too quickly just to keep the connection alive. You are no longer the man who held onto fragments, hoping she'd notice your worth, hoping she'd choose to grow beside you instead of away from you. And now that she sees how far you've come, she's beginning to feel the gravity of her absence in your evolution. There's a discomfort in realizing that someone she once loved, or maybe didn't know how to love, has become better without her. That someone she thought she had figured out has become a man she no longer recognizes because he's no longer reaching for her approval, no longer craving her attention, no longer defining his identity by her presence. And in that space of unfamiliarity, she begins to feel the silent weight of regret. Not the kind that makes her fall to her knees or send desperate messages in the middle of the night, but the kind that shows up quietly in the moments when she thinks of you and wonders what would have happened if she had just paused a little longer before walking away, if she had just looked past your flaws long enough to see the strength in your effort, if she had just stopped trying to control the timing and instead allowed herself to grow with you rather than apart from you. She remembers the conversations, the fights, the silent treatments, the missed chances to fix what was still salvageable. She replays the moment she said it was over, and how certain she felt at the time, only to now find herself unsure whether she left because it was necessary or because she didn't have the patience to stay. And every time she sees you now, calm, collected, at peace, she sees a man who didn't just recover, but who rose, who evolved, who flourished without her watering the roots. That kind of growth is hard to ignore. It's the kind that makes her reflect on her own path, question whether she's truly moved forward or simply moved on without evolving, whether she's actually healed or just learned to hide the cracks better. And it lingers, that thought, that unspoken realization that she may have walked away from someone who is still becoming, someone who could have been more, not just for her, but with her. But now she'll never know, because you didn't just move forward. You closed the door without slamming it, walked away without bitterness, and built a life so full that there's no longer space for someone who once thought you'd always be waiting. That quiet kind of closure, the one where you don't need to explain or prove anything, is what stays with her the most. So what does a woman feel when she sees you've moved on? She feels the consequences of the story she helped write, but didn't expect to end. And you're no longer a chapter she can re-edit. You are the book that continued without her. Better, bolder, wiser. You didn't just move on, you moved up. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to get even, not to explain yourself, not to revisit the past, but to keep moving with peace in your heart and purpose in your step, because healing in silence, thriving in peace, that's the loudest response you'll ever need.